So welcome everybody. This is Marguerite Rigoglioso of Seven Sisters Mystery School, and I am here live on Facebook to talk with you today about why the fairies are calling you and how to connect with them through trees. We're going to have with us Maura McCarley Torkeldsen, and she is what I call a tree whisperer. I'm bringing her on right now. All right. There we go.
Hello.
Hello, Maura McCarley Torkeldsen. It's so exciting to have you here. I've got my orchids. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. They're little.
I have my tree.
Yeah, we're just going to have the orchids right here. They're just front and center. And so this is a call. I'm so excited that some of you are coming on who have seen the announcement either on Facebook or today on my Seven Sisters Mystery School e-zine. And so the purpose of this call is to help everybody connect even more to the fairies, to understand how serious this is, although the fairies don't like to even use that word serious, but it is serious that we awaken to the fairies now because something is happening. Planet Earth is having a slow nervous breakdown, right? We are really in a time of great turmoil. It's the gnashing of teeth and the wailing, literally. If you have been gnashing your teeth at night, that's why we are in that time. I have been gnashing my teeth at night. This is the great time of the great turning. It feels like a crisis. A lot of people are experiencing it personally, a sense of disconnection or loneliness, feeling like you're the only one, not feeling connected up with community enough, alienation, conflict going on in your personal life, and then seeing it all on the world stage. So enter the fairies. Dee, 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 dee. Hello! Hello, we're here, okay? The fairies are about humor and delight, okay? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. As some of you know, as I have been discussing on my e-zines and in many different formats through my teaching, I've basically been in the underworld for quite some time. I've been on an underworld journey, especially the last 3 years. If any of you know astrology, Pluto, transiting Pluto, has been opposite my natal sun in my chart. That is an extremely challenging and difficult Persephone descent. And what that has meant is that I have gone into what I believe is the bottom rung of my karmic agony, as it has been in this life and many, many lives. And I've been climbing out by doing this inner healing, And so recently I've been inspired to really start teaching about the fairies. I mean, this has been going all over the years. I've been getting nudges from them, information in medicine ceremony, through intuition, and then working one-on-one with clients and seeing, oh my gosh, are these people sitting before me fairies? You know, they kind of look like fairies. And then I start talking to them and they have this fairy connection. So I realized there are human fairy hybrids. And even deeper than that, we may be more kin than we even know, because Tom Kenyon, in his book, The Arcturian Anthology, he has transmitted that originally humans were created out of what? Primates that were here that the fairies would go in and out of. The fairies would enter the soul of the primate. Why? They liked the sexual experience in 3 dimensions. And when the fairies would stay too long, they got trapped in the primate body. And Tom channels that it's these beings that the other interdimensional beings came and started working with to create humans in different experimental strains and so forth and so on. So we may actually be kin with the fairies at our core, which is why they call to us so much, and they've called to us as children, all right? So some of us are more fairy than others in that we have incarnated specifically into family lines with a particular kind of DNA, or we have arranged for our soul to have an interdimensional type of fairy DNA when we come in, which is often manifested in how we look. All right. There's certain characteristics, and I've been talking about that, and I'm going to be talking about that more in my new class, which I want to mention now. Some of you know it's called Awakening to Our Fairy Kin, and it's starting this Thursday online, March 8th, 10 to 11:30 a.m. Pacific. It's going 4 Thursdays online, and we're inviting you to join us. After this call, I'm going to be posting the URL for that, but basically you can go to sevensistersmysteryschool.com, and on the home page, on the sidebar there, it says upcoming offerings, and you can click onto it. It's right there, Awakening to Our Fairy Kin. I'm going to talk a little bit later about what we're going to be doing in that class and how this is a little taster to wet your whistle. We hope you'll be coming. Maura McCarley Torkelson is going to be teaching the day long, which we are calling Fairies, Bees, Gardens, and Trees. A day of fairy play in the East Bay. And of course, the fairies love rhyming. So we are going to be looking at fairies and bees. We've got April Aronoff, who's going to be teaching in her bee and rose garden that she's cultivated, and she's had many experiences with fairies, bees, dragons, and so forth, because the dragons are all part of this. And a lot of you have been asking me, what about the dragons? Yes. And then in the afternoon, we're going to Tilden Park, and Maura is going to be talking about the trees and taking us into deep experiences with the trees. So I just want to talk about ways in which the fairies are showing up in my life, which is indicating I'm in a new phase now. I'm starting to move out of the deep underworld into the new phase, one of which is these blooming orchids. I've mentioned in a couple of videos before that my orchids tend to die immediately and they never ever bloom again. Well, this year, after watching them, observing them, trying to give them food, this and that, nothing was working. What started working? I started talking to them, caressing their leaves, morning, noon, and night, saying hello to them. And what happened? They started growing new leaves. The dying ones started revivifying. They started developing their flowers, and here they are. So that's one sign. Another sign is that I've been bringing out Gloria and Sylvia, my two comedy beings, in our show, in their show Karma Talk, because it's time now. All right, it's time for me to come out with more of my humor aspect. That's part of the fairy realm. They love humor. Okay, they're anything from silly to sophisticated. Okay, and I've started dancing again. I've started doing swing dance, ballroom dance, salsa dance. This is something from 25 years ago in my life. I'm doing it again. That's fairy. I've also started singing again. I used to be a professional singer. I started singing again. I got into a couple of gospel choirs, and yesterday we were at the rehearsal for the Oakland Community Choir with the Gay Men's Chorus of San Francisco and the Oakland Interfaith Choir. It's going to be a massive concert at the end of this month. We were so high. It was the most intense experience of unity consciousness that I've ever had in my life, bar none. Why? Because when we started singing and clapping and rocking and looking at each other, every difference melted away, and we were humans, united in our humanity, and it was so beautiful, and it was so fairy. That's the fairies at their best. They are trying to teach us. They are saying, humans, we are kin with you. We want you to awaken. We want you to start connecting with us. We are here to help you. You are here to help us. This is an imperative part of your ascension process. You're moving into fifth dimensional awareness, your spiritual expansion and growth, okay? Very, very important. This is not just kid stuff. Although what they were showing me today when I was in meditation is that we can re-youthen anyone. Part of that can be physical, but it's mostly an emotional thing. They can restore your innocence by tapping into them. And Maura is going to be talking about this a little bit. We're going to be going into this in a major way in the Awakening to Our Fairy Kin course, starting with Seven Sisters Mystery School this Thursday on March 8th online. And they are really saying, you know, now is the time. Now is the time. You are all shot to hell. Earth is having a slow nervous breakdown. You need help. We are here. This is what we're all about. We're here to show you delight. Okay? So, I want to bring in now Maura, who is what I call a tree whisperer. Okay? Maura has been working quite some time quietly by herself, but also through her book, The Curious Magic of Buckeye Groves, that came out a couple of years ago. She has been working with trees and fairies for quite some time. She works extensively with Brian Froud's Fairies Oracle deck as one thing, but mostly on the inner planes and her activity with trees. So Maura, I'm going to welcome you first of all. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's a delight. And I want to start with, what's the most important thing you want people to know about fairies and trees and that connection?
So I think this is a thing that really came through in my book, The Curious Magic of Buckeye Groves, which really the process of writing was very magical because so much of it was channeled. I would sit down and write and just would come through, and even I would be surprised by what came through. And I mean, it started, of course, with me being enchanted by the Buckeye Groves here in California. And that was one of my very first experiences here. And it stuck with me for 20 years before I wrote the book. And during that, I was deepening during that process. But the book is really about trees as portals. And in the book, these trees, specific trees, are portals, and it's incredibly important because, you know, Gaia is connected both on a very material level, but on a very ethereal level. And in the book, there's a twin world, which that came through me, and that's the ethereal world. And to me, that is the world of the fairies. And without these special trees, the connection gets lost. And what happens is things kind of get stuck here, and it gets too, you might say, airy fairy there. So this connection that we have through the trees is incredibly vital, important for us, because it allows the magic to go both ways, the magic of Gaia and the magic of what I was calling Enos Avalone in my book. There has to be this reciprocity there. And so when we dishonor our earth and we don't connect with the trees, then we lose that magic. And the fairies are really emissaries to that, for me. That's how I see them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I want to add in there that what brought me to California, when I really think about it, were the redwoods. Because years before I even came out here to go to school at the California Institute of Integral Studies, I had to take a trip out here and for work, and I ended up going to the redwoods in Sausalito, okay, Muir Woods. And I wasn't even awake then, but I could hear them talking. And I was just like, doggone if I can't hear what they're saying, you know, like telepathically. It was so obvious. And I thought, my God. So that always struck me. And recently in medicine, they were like, yes, we've called you. We in part called you here. And with the trees, as you're saying, Maura, they're always the fae, the fairies. They are intricately and intimately connected as these orchids, as really any plants. They're connected around the plants, but they're also connected around lakes, rivers, streams, mist, fog, mountain tops, you know, caves. Like, there are fairies and fae of all of these different realms, but it's connected to Gaia. You know, like if you went to the moon, you wouldn't have fairies.
Right.
Okay,
exactly.
Because there's no organic life. And every time you remove organic life, you're removing large swaths of fairies. Boom, there they go. There goes a holocaust for them. Okay?
Yes.
So you are going to be co-teaching on the optional April 29th day for the Awakening to Our
Yes.
Fairy Kin course. So we're going to do the 4 online classes. And then for those who are in the East Bay or who want to come on Sunday, April 29th, we're going to be doing that day long with April in the morning and you in the afternoon at Tilden in the East Bay. And so can you just give us a little glimpse as to what you're going to be teaching people?
Yeah, so, well, first of all, I just want to say this place that we're going in Tilden is an incredibly magical grove of all sorts of trees. And so we will be walking through the land of magic trees there as part of what we're doing. But really, what it'll be about is tapping in to the inner world, because this is where that communication comes through to us, is through tapping into the inner world and being in touch. So we're going to go on a little journey into the senses, and I'm going to be encouraging people to tap in with what I call their primary modality. So their primary intuitive modality, and that's a little bit different for everyone. I mean, some people are seers, other people's are feelers or listening. So we have different ways that we can tap in, but we use our senses in our body to do that. And so we'll be tapping into that, and then we'll be going out and seeing what calls to us, which trees call to us, and connecting with them and seeing what comes through. And, I'll be doing some teaching around ways to not to open up so that you're not like overcasting your own story onto what's happening, but being able to really listen, which is a critical skill when you're dealing with both the trees and the fairies, because we have dishonored for so long in Western world that connection to nature. I mean, look at what we've created and why, as you were talking about Gaia screaming, and it's because we've been disconnected. So we need to learn to tap back in and listen. And so that'll be a critical piece. But to learn to do it in a way that works for you. I mean, I don't want to teach people a specific way. I want people to get in and be empowered to tap in their own way. And so that's kind of
Absolutely.
the meditation we'll be starting with there.
Blessed be. And this whole class, Awakening to Our Fairy Kin, that starts on Thursday, is all about people who are in the class becoming empowered to connect themselves. And one of the things we're going to do is you're going to meet your fairy ally on the other side, your primary fairy ally. This might be somebody that when you get to them, you recognize them from some dimension or the past or a past life or something. And really enter into the fairy realm together, because it's about you knowing how to access this daily. And in the class, we're going to be talking about tools and techniques and processes for doing that. We're going to be making some commitments around that just for the month of March, for the 4 weeks of the program, just to see how that goes and feels. Everything from using your plants to going out in nature, making offerings and that type of thing. Now, I want to just mention that there's somebody named John who's saying that when we were talking about the decimation of nature, he's saying, I guess that's why patriarchy cuts down trees, trying to monopolize access to the divine, telling us that we have to go through them and pay the toll, and it's a male deity. Hello. The destruction of nature and the desertification of the world, the drying up of the world, is part of this interdimensional patriarchal agenda. The destruction of the natural organic life, absolutely, because it gets more and more and more of the fairies out of the way so that we have less and less and less access. Why the world used to be more magical and we were all connected? Because it wasn't so destroyed. Ireland had way more of its nature, up there, and in the entire UK, all over the place. We had the magic all around us, and it's pretty hard to miss when you go out your door and it's like magical looking. It looks like Shangri-La every day. It's a lot easier to connect with the fairies than now. When you go out, I was just in Oakland for that interfaith gospel rehearsal yesterday, and it was like a wasteland. It's like Broadway row of car dealerships. Oakland used to be the land of oaks, people.
I
The
know it's
land
so
of oaks, right? It will break your heart. And Maura, beforehand, you were talking to me about research you had done that the certain indigenous peoples have said, when you remove the trees, you create misery among the
yes,
people. And what do we have in Oakland? Misery,
yes,
okay?
exactly.
Misery,
Yeah.
shootings, and all sorts of things. There's no nature for people to be connected to. And people of lower income levels often end up in these wastelands because, you know, who else wants to live there, right? And so who else, everybody moves out, or, you know, you're moving really, really far out, um, and have, you know, have to travel far to get connected with people at all.
Can I add something
Please,
here? I mean, I think
please.
this is a critical aspect of also taking a class like this, being in community with other people, because here's the thing. Um, the Inquisition, especially for women, really shattered our internal trust because we were destroyed as female sages. And it kind of tore us away from being in connection with our inner wisdom. And so we need each other to rebuild that sense of trust again, being in a safe space where you can really tap into your inner world and be encouraged to tap into that rather than led away from it. And when we do that in community, it's very, very powerful because you get the kind of confirmation that you need to continue to move deeper and deeper into trust. And that's really a big piece about this class, is we're doing it in community and we're reconnecting those threads again to each other and to the natural world and to our inner senses where the fairies can communicate with us. And so I just
Beautiful.
wanted to kind of add that in. Um,
Yes, and I want to add to that that this course, Awakening to Our Fairykins, starting on Thursday, March 8th online, is going to be very much a group empowerment, okay? I will be leading activities, but I also want us to have discussion, and there will be a private Facebook group page for discussion, because what's been happening over the past few years since I've been writing on these blog posts about the fairies and all this information I've been getting about human fairy hybrids, why we need them now, their own Holocaust, and so forth. Um, they, I have had literally hundreds of people writing in, and you know, I want more of you who have written into me to take this course. This is your opportunity. People are writing in and they want assistance and they want guidance, you know, well, this is it. Because we're going to co-create the knowledge again. We're going to bring it all back together, put the puzzle pieces together. Everybody has a piece. Every fairy hybrid that I talk to has something, a story that is amazing, a piece of knowledge that is amazing, and we need to put these things together. There's no one big book that has all the information about the fairies. It's out in the Akashic records. So we need to bring more of that into three-dimensional reality, and that's part of what we're going to be doing through this course. It's going to be very exciting. It's going to be fun. It's going to be something that you're going to look forward to every week, and it's going to bring enchantment to your life. So Maura, let me
I,
ask, yes, go ahead, please.
well, I think it's so clear to me that once upon a time, this world used to be such an enchanted place. I mean, if you look at the lore and the stories from, you know, the Greek mythology into Ireland and around the world, things were different with humans. We were tapped in a very different way. That's so clear to me in the lore, and we need to revive that because that's what makes the world magic. And you know, I know one of the ways that I know that I'm fairy hybrid is the fact that I have this deep soul longing for magic in my life. I've been searching for it my entire life. And you know, it took me years to kind of learn to trust that was a meaningful thing, that it wasn't just a stupid fantasy that I was having. In fact, I will say that, you know, reading The Lord of the Rings is what saved me in my adolescent years, which was an extremely painful time for me. If I hadn't had that book, where that magic, where I could pop into that magic world, I don't know if I would have come out the same.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so I just wanted
Blessed
to ask.
be. Blessed be. And at this point, I want to invite people who are watching to make comments and also to ask questions of Maura or me. These could be technical questions, or they could be intuitive questions, questions you want us to look at intuitively, because Maura and I are both oracles, as many people know, and the fairies are very much connected in with us right now. Mel has written that the East Bay parks have been actively cutting trees in the name of fire protection. Sweet. At the Albany Bulb, there used to be a huge population of hummingbirds. Now there are just a few due to the destruction of their habitat. Glad I documented their presence through my photography. Yes, Mel, thank you so much for that. And this is what I'm seeing. And now across the country in the Northwest, every time there's some kind of hurricane or, you know, whatever, they go insane. You hear the buzz saws for days afterward. Everyone's cutting trees now. It might fall on our house. It might fall on our house. For God's sake, wake up, people. You know,
Yeah.
wake up. Every time you cut a tree, you remove an entire world. And so,
Yes.
Maura, I'm wondering if you could talk about that, because I know you and I have spoken about that, and you've had that experience of the
Yes.
world of a tree and the fairies
So
connected to that.
so often when I'm out on my walks, what I do is I just place my hands on the trees, and you know, I receive visions or I receive information, and I mean, it's not, you know, profound every time. You kind of have to build a relationship. But there was one old oak at Point Reyes that I remember putting my hands on, and it just, the message came through: we create life. Trees are powerful manifestors. I mean, if you know how much life lives around a tree, it's amazing. I mean, everything from the bugs to the fungi to the moss to the birds to the animals to the trees create that. It's magic. And so every time we cut down a tree, we're cutting down a world.
A
And we're
world.
cutting down a connection. We're cutting down our connection to the magic as well. You know, and particularly old trees. This is why the cutting down of the redwoods is such a tragedy, because those trees are thousands of years old.
Thousand.
And they, I mean, walk into a redwood grove and you know you have instantly entered into magical space.
Yes,
They create that
and they
space.
call it fairy rings for a reason, because the way they
Yes.
grow, people instinctively knew when they were making names for these phenomena, right? It's a circle in which fairies can dance and people can join with fairies. That's why I've come to like doing a lot of my ceremonies in redwood groves, and I've developed specific relationships with them. Yes, when you
Yes.
cut down a tree, you cut down a world. Quote, Maura McCarley
Yes.
Torkelson, Tree Whisperer, that needs to go around the world. And there's a group that I just found out about last night. It's Women and Trees or something like that. People might know
Yeah,
about it.
there's Tree Sisters. Tree Sisters,
Tree
and
Sisters.
I'm a member of that. I donate to them every month, and they have a goal for planting thousands of trees every month. So, and they do this around the
Yes.
world. So it's an excellent organization to belong to. And
Yeah.
you know, I mean, the woman who runs this thing, if you ever listen to her talk, sorry, I can't remember her name right now. She's amazing. And
Yeah. Bless
I
Wangari
don't want to pop,
Maatai.
yes,
Bless
I want
Wangari
to pop in
Maatai
with a
for
little bit of
starting
hope
this.
here. Um, just because, you know, I came across something this week, and I think it's important also, as you mentioned before, Marguerite, to tap into that hopeful place as well. I mean, we could talk all day about the dour, horrible things that are happening in the world, but I think that there is reason to hope. So, you know, fungus is magical. And I'm also a mushroom hunter, and they are magical beings, mushrooms are, and they will show themselves when they want to. But the thing about fungi, there's a deep relationship between fungi and trees. They feed each other. So there's a network. Trees communicate with each other under the ground. They communicate with the other plant life. And often the transmitter of that is the fungi, and they also help nurture the trees. Well, I ran across this Myco Works online a couple days ago, and what they're creating is leather goods made from fungi. So they're growing fungi, and they can make furniture with it, and they can do all this stuff. So I think the hope is out there, and I see this as the influence of these emissaries, you know, tapping into the consciousness of humans and having them alter the way that they're working with technology. So using fungi is it's an organic form of technology. And this kind of stuff, I think, is going to take over the world. This is what's going to create the shift. And I find that incredibly hopeful.
And
So
with that, Maura, yeah,
yes, sorry.
beautiful. With that, we've got the magic mushrooms. We've got psilocybin. We've got Amanita muscaria, which are the red mushrooms with the white. That's the ones you see in the ancient old drawings of fairies and trees, and you always see a gnome or an elf right near there. Why? Because when you imbibe this medicine carefully, you know, it is a poison, but you have to be very careful with it. You will open your eyes to other dimensions, and you will see the fairies. Oftentimes, people do not see fairies this day and age unless they are with sacred medicines, usually mushrooms, or in dreams. Now, the
Yeah.
seers, the real seers, can see them in 3D, but that's more challenging. But you can see them in 5D, meaning you can get into the meditation. That's what we're going to do in the day long. That's what we're going to do in the Awakening to Our Fairy Kin course starting this Thursday, March 8th, through Seven Sisters Mystery School. I'm going to be posting the direct link for that right after this video is concluded, and you can go take a look, register, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it right now. What we're going to do, as I mentioned, we're going to be dwelling with the fairy world in the inner dimensions together as a class, meeting these beings, meeting the fairy friend, developing a bona fide relationship with at least one of these beings that you can go back to again and again. You're going to be learning about some of the races, the numerous races of the Fae. They're as varied as humans or any other kinds of beings, maybe even more so. You're going to learn about their Holocausted history and the human-fairy hybrid phenomenon and what that means, why some of us have incarnated with fairy DNA in a larger percentage than some other people, what we go through, and what our mission is. We're going to be learning about and talking about and working with how awakening to fairy consciousness is critical to your spiritual ascension, your spiritual growth. You're moving into fifth dimensional consciousness. The fairies are waiting on the other side to move, for us to move into fifth dimensional consciousness en masse, so that they can move into sixth dimensional consciousness. They're already in fifth. That's why we don't really see them for the most part, because they're over in that other dimension. Same place, different dimension on planet Earth. That's a very interesting concept to start opening it opens the crack right there. Okay, and we're going to be talking in the Awakening to Our Fairy Kin class about how to work with them for your own spiritual growth, for your increasing your delight quotient, your healing. Okay, your healing from your trauma, and what your mission is and how you can move into that more strongly now, because each person who's connected with the fairies or interested has a mission, a ministry, whether it's tiny or in your garden or with your house plants, or whether it's something bigger out in the world, like tree sisters, like Wangari Maathai, who, you know, started planting trees all over the world. Okay, those are some of the things we're going to be looking at and working with this in this class. Now, again, I am inviting people to make comments and ask questions, and we have someone here, Alexandra, who says, When I was a really little girl, I told my mom that the whales, the elephants, and the really large trees are like the redwoods were wisdom keepers. Do you have any information on that? Do we ever? And the most important thing, Alexandra, is that you have information about that. If you came in and as a child, you were spouting that kind of deep level wisdom, you were connected, you are connected. We want to see you in this class, front and center, sitting in the front row with your hand up, because there's something that you need to do in this
Yes,
regard. You
exactly.
need to amp up your mission. Like the fairies are here now. Wow, they're like right behind me. They're saying, amp up the mission. That's right. We need you all to go out and, rally and do what you're meant to do. Do what you're meant to do. Don't just sit on your duff. Start dancing, start singing, start, bringing the awareness, bringing the delight quotient, bringing people out to your local trees, bringing people to your garden, whatever it is. There's bigger and bigger and bigger visions that you can have. Okay, so yes, the trees are wisdom keepers along with the fairies. Maura, let's have you jump in here.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, thank you for making that comment. And just the fact that, I mean, that you asked that question tells me that you already know. And
Exactly.
you're just, I mean, this is why being in a group of people in a class like this is great, because then you get that knowledge confirmed and you get to deepen and trust with it. So, I'm seeing here, Alexandra, that you're also saying that you think you have heard them, but you haven't seen them. And I just want to encourage you to trust your own modality. So, in Western culture, when we talk about the psychic skills, we're so focused on clairvoyance that, I've had so many people that I've worked with who thought that they weren't intuitive because they didn't see things. But you know what? I'm primarily what you call clairsentient. I'm a feeler. I feel things, and I'm starting to develop my inner sense of seeing, but I have the knowing that comes through and the feeling and trust. What's primary for you, Alexandra, and that's also a value of taking this class, is we're going to be encouraging everybody to be able to trust their own modality here and connect in their
Absolutely.
own way.
And apropos of that, one thing that's very important, Alexandra, and everybody, is that, and this is something I'm going to be very much emphasizing. Yes, we all have our own modalities. Mine is primarily clear cognizance, clear knowing. Whoa, boom, download. Just like you as a child, Alexandra, you knew, and you were telling your mother, you were like the little minister girl telling the adults around you what was what. Um, uh, as I tell my clairvoyance, or excuse me, my oracle students in my Priestess of the Dove Oracle training, which is, by the way, coming up later this year in May, you might want to check that out as well, those of you who are wanting to develop the knowing and the seeing. Clairvoyance, meaning clear seeing, so that we can see these fairies in the inner mind, comes about, guess how it's developed? Through imagination. You have a very vivid, everybody has a very vivid imagination. You can like start imagining things and like kind of part seeing things and conjuring. Part of seeing what is conjuring what you're making up in your mind. There's a very thin line between the two. And this is the whole point about the fairy realm. They work in the imaginal realm, the realm of the imagination. Imagine nation. That's the country I want to live in, okay? And
That's
that's why
great. I
John
love that.
Lennon, the fairies are saying why his album was called Imagine. All
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And we are not going to be mown down like he was if we join together as a group. The fairies are like, we're a group. If you happen upon our party, we're like dancing and singing. Da 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 da. Let's dance. Do da. They're like over there. Anybody like Rock, Robert Ogilvy Crombie, who, along with Dorothy McLean and those people, were the founders of Findhorn. He writes in his book, The Gentleman and the Faun, Faun, meaning half man, half deer. He would be able to have seeing, and he would like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden he'd round a corner and there was this fairy party going on, and it was like this raucous thing happening, you know. But it was happy. It wasn't like, you know, the way humans have these raucous things and some people are feeling left out and everybody's on drugs and you don't want to be on those drugs because they're synthetic and what, you know, whatever it is. You know, the point being that imagining and seeing, it's something that also can be cultivated, so then you can have the inner seeing and you can see, oh, the foot of the fairy. Oh, I just saw a glimpse of something. I don't know what it was. Am I making it up? Am I making it up? We want to reframe that am I making it up into,
Yeah, actually,
right?
yeah, so here's what Western philosophy has done. It's tried to split apart reality. It says there's real and not real. Well, reality is everything. It's a big circle of everything, right? And so you can't tear it apart into two things. If it's here, whether it's in our experience or, you know, we can actually touch it, you know, materially. It doesn't, just because it's happening inside you doesn't make it not real. You experienced it, right? It was present. And so I think it's important to recognize that and honor that, because that's how we move over into developing more of a relationship and trust with that inner knowing. And it doesn't always happen exactly the way that we want it to. So for instance, I just wanted to add in with the imagination, you know, I've spent a life being a creative person, and it doesn't always happen like all instantly in a minute. So I had an experience of a dragon. I met a dragon in meditation once, and this was more real than real for me. But after I popped out of the meditation, I started to write about this. And this also shows up in my book, The Curious Magic of Buckeye Groves. The experience of being with that dragon was extended through the character in my book. That doesn't make it any less real. And so that's a real part of that experience. And so it didn't happen instantly, but it continued through me as I was writing and doing creative things. So there's something that I call clair creativity, which is where you're bringing through from the creative space. Trust that. That creativity comes from elsewhere. It's not, you know, we tap in deeper when we're in a creative space and we pull it through. These things land on our lap for a reason.
They do. It's no accident. And you have to trust the magic of it. And so part of the course, the awakening to our fairy kin, is to get everybody into that realm of the creative, the allowing, the playing. That's the realm of the playing, and that's the realm of the child. So what the fairies were telling me this morning, we can re-youthen anyone, is going to be part of the Awakening to Our Fairy Kin course starting this Thursday, March 8th online with Seven Sisters Mystery School, just for those who are new coming in, because we need to play again. This is the realm of the child. Remember when we were kids and we were doing make-believe and this and that, and it was just such, you know, we were open to everything, and we've become increasingly through school, right? Regimented school, increasingly stiff, calcified and old, you know. And I asked the fairies today, I said, do you get old? Do you die? And they're like, well, it's different for us than for you. It's more like we get ready to transform state. You all, so those of us who are more mature are still agile. And so they're like, if you want to stay agile, keep dancing. You know, that's what I'm learning. Like, okay, I'm out in the swing dance and the ballroom dance, and I'm like, holy crap, I haven't danced in 20, 25 years. It's, you know, wow, my body, it's taking a while to get back up into my flexibility and into my joy. And they're saying, stay with it. You know, that's why we had fairy dances and humans had circle dances, because it would
Yeah.
keep you agile even into your elder years. It would keep you in community. It would keep you in joy. You know, people would dance among the trees, in the fairy rings, in the circles. They were joining with the fairies right at that time. Whenever humans, they're telling me right now, whenever humans dance, fairies are present. Okay, so that's interesting. So we're going to have to
Yeah.
do a little fairy dance at Tilden Park on the optional day long, April 29th for this,
Yes.
okay? They're
Yes.
just saying, we will restore your youth, your inner youth, keep you supple, keep you flexible, keep you happy, keep you reopen that imagination and that joy of imagination that so many of you have gotten so far deeply into the entrenchment that it's even those of you who are not on this call are so far into it, you know, that you're not even answering the call to be here or to come to this class. All right. Kendall was mentioning, I'm so glad you mentioned the Tree Sisters. I feel we have to engage in action in the outer world. Absolutely, because, and that's what part of the ending of the course is going to be, is how are you stepping into the outer world with your ministry? Okay, so let's see. We've got fairies, love wild nature. So leave part of your garden wild and undisturbed. They love toning, high overtone singing. It might also heighten your energy so you can see them. Okay, fabulous, Herbert. Thank you so much. Leave part of your garden wild. Fantastic. And this
Yes.
toning and high overtone singing, yes. And sometimes when people, and I've had this experience, maybe you've had this experience, when you're singing or singing in a group, you're like, wait, what the heck was that? Did you hear like something else? Was there an overtone or was there something else happening? And what they're saying right now is, yeah, that's the fairies. We like to come in with you and we like to
So
make extra harmonies.
I actually had that experience with my women's circle and a tree. We were all standing around the tree and we put our hands on and we were toning, and the tree was toning with us. So it was the fairies in the tree that was toning. It was like so magical. I really, really loved it.
Yeah,
And, you know, I just wanted to add in there, yes, getting out in nature is one really easy way to connect back in too. It's probably the easiest method that you can, to just get out in nature and in the trees,
yeah,
and it instantly softens us when
yeah.
we do that.
Blessed
So
be. And so doubly, if you're going to dance and sing out in nature in a fairy ring, they're like, we'll be there. Just, you know, anytime you start, we drop everything and we're like, oh, the humans, they're dancing, they're singing. Let's go. What a fun party. Dee, 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 dee. And then they're all around, you know, and then they're doing their own part. Okay, Alexandra, I think I've heard them but not seen them. I was called to go outside to play with them when I was a little girl. See, this is so common, these stories. Then
yes.
I had a vision of spirals and asked it what I was, what I was seeing was real. See, spirals, very much so, the other dimension. And then heard those same voices saying that what I was seeing was real and not a hallucination. Yes, hello, thank you very much. It sounded like one voice of many. That is a typical sign right there that you're in interdimensional realm and fairy realm. And it was like a sparkly dolphin-like energy to it. Yep, very high vibration, and made me feel like I was connecting with myself. If you don't come, hello, we are Marguerite's Comedy Beings, Gloria and Sylvia, Alexandra. If you don't come into this course, we're gonna paddle your tush. All right, you better get here. You get here. You just look at that link afterward, or you go onto the Seven Sisters site and you sign up. All right, we don't want to hear any excuses. Okay, how about fairies and pets? I go into the woods with my dogs. All right, Maura, you want to say anything about that? Ha ha ha.
Well, yeah, I have a cat. I don't have dogs, but yeah, I mean, cats, I know that cats are aware on a much deeper level. In fact, it was a cat that taught me how to be present. It was one of my cats. And, you know, I just want to share that I was in such pain when this occurred. And it brings me back to something we were talking about at the beginning about, you know, the one person who posted about the control of the patriarchal realm. And this is one of the beautiful benefits of actually interacting with the fairies and with nature in this way is that it's healthy for us. We can relax. We can stop worrying about being in control. And that's part of the sickness of where we are, is this need to control every little thing. And so what that does is it narrows, our brains are receivers, okay? They don't create consciousness. Consciousness comes into us. So our brains are receivers. And we are on such a narrow channel right now because of this need for control, that's why we can't see the fairies or
Yeah.
understand them, because we don't allow ourselves to, because we're on this narrow channel. So that's the beauty of like tapping in and being with people in a course like this, is you get a chance to see that it can happen, and that it can be a
Absolutely.
beautiful thing, and your whole body relaxes. You can let go of all the angst.
It does. My body is relaxed since the beginning of this video. Every time if I glimpse at my face, like at the beginning I had, now I'm like laughing because, I'm bringing them in. We're bringing them in. And also part of the reason why we're stuck in control mode is because of the trauma that's happened to us, which the
Yes.
dark negative overlords have seen too. And the fairies are saying, hey, we can ally with you. We know there's dark negative overlords. They've caused us problems on the inner planes too. You're not the only ones. And we want to help you release your trauma so that you can release the control fears and you can relax. Okay, that's very, very important. Again, we're taking comments and questions. We're going to be on here a little while longer. Comments and questions for Maura or me about the fairies, about the course, about anything. Lulu is saying, I feel that when wasps, hummingbirds, butterflies, and bees come to me while gardening, that they are the fae. Yes. Hello. These fae come in through these winged creatures, right? So if you see one buzzing around and it's like trying to get your attention, yeah. And even the
Yeah.
flies. There was one channeler, Barbara Marciniak, who said, oh, you notice how a fly like just continues to bug your nose? It's like, it's because the fly is conscious and it's playing with you. Okay, so that
Yes.
is an example of fairy behavior, because they're mischievous too, right? And they're also are negative fairies. Okay, there are pretty fierce fairies out there and not so nice. Some of us have gotten into that karma as well because we're in duality and they're still in duality. We got the good fairies, Glinda the Good Witch, and then we have the Wicked Witch of the West fairies. Okay,
Yes.
so you got to be prepared for that. So thanks for that, Lulu. Let's just see if there are other comments here.
Well, I just wanted
Oh,
to add in, and this is a big piece that April's bringing in, because April is going to be, the bees have been her emissaries. And so that's part of that day long that we're doing, is we're going to be at April's house and with the bees that chose her,
yeah,
in a
they
very
came.
magical way. So,
I know, and I know. I wonder if April's here. I would bring her on the call, but if April, if you're here by any chance, let us know. We'll try to bring you in. But yeah, the bees made a hive in her wall, in her rose garden. Okay, that doesn't just happen by accident. That's a huge visitation right there, and it's hugely fae related because she has been cultivating her roses with such love, and that's where we're going to be in that morning. Okay,
yeah,
so yeah, very
yeah.
important. And Jacqueline is saying the word magician comes from the word imagination. Oh, that is so cool. Etymologically, I didn't know
Love
that. That would be imagination, Dorothy is saying. Mel is saying, I see colors around people with my eyes open when they are inside against a light background. Yes. What do the fairies have to say about seeing them with our eyes open? I am shy about singing and dancing, but I love creating visual art. Looking forward to the class. Well, many fairies are shy, Mel, especially when they're in human bodies, such as yourself. It's not safe to be in a human body, or it is experienced as not being safe. And that's one of the things that we are going to be talking about in the class, Awakening to Our Fairy Kin, starting March 8th on this Thursday, 10 to 11:30 online through Seven Sisters. I'll have the link up a bit later. It's on the site for those who are new. You know, there are hazards to being a human fairy hybrid, and what you've brought in with yourself and what you're needing to heal. Very huge. So we are going to be helping with that so that people can feel a level of support. Now, what about seeing them with our eyes open? Do you have any information coming through about that, Maura? She wants to know, what about seeing them with our eyes open?
Well, so for me, you know, I mean, I'm not real, my primary modality is not really visual, but I can tell you that this is where sacred plant medicine can sometimes help a lot.
Exactly.
Um, so someone in my family um, took tea from the Amanita mushroom, and the main experience there was actually being able to see the fairies. And I think that it's something that we can develop, but it's also learning how to see. And sometimes it takes a little bit to be able to do that. Part of it is trusting so we can open more and more. And more recently, because I've, you know, it was in contact with the tree when I finally realized, oh, you know, they show me things when I'm touching them, and this is where I've been growing my clairvoyant sense. And I realized one day, oh my gosh, this is my third eye. It's not just my imagination, you know. So I think it'll take time to be able to see things with eyes open. But I had a recent experience with that with sacred plant medicine. Definitely saw things then. So it's opening that brain channel. It's a work in progress.
And you know, there are gifted people, but this is what we are opening to so that we can see. We can be in.
Yes.
What they're showing me right now is what's happening on Earth plane is people are ascending into fifth dimension while in third, which means they're going to be cultivating the ability to see things in third dimensional reality that ordinarily are only in fifth. This is an uncanny experience. It can be very frightening to many people. That's why we're not really quite ready for this. It is happening in a slow way. The mushrooms and the other plants can help open this and hasten it, but you would freak if you saw a little half blue, half, you know, red man coming to your door. You would totally frickin' freak. Okay? People are not really ready for that. But who's ready? Children. All right? I know my
Yes.
friend Maria in Sicily. What did she tell me? She said when she was little, she and her friend were out in the woods in Sicily, and she said she saw these two beings, and they had clothes. They were little clothes. Half the clothes were blue and half the clothes were red. This is a common motif, half one color, half another. And she said they started getting scared because they were like, oh my God, these are not human beings. They ran home, and she told you, they ran home screaming, ye spiriti, the spirits, the spirits. And she ran home and told her mother, and her mother slapped her and hit her. And she said, don't talk about things, those things. Okay, so this is, whoa, vision shut down right there, trauma.
Right.
This
This
is
is how we get trained.
Catholic Church, patriarchy, we're not going to see. Okay, so
Right.
this is part of what's happening, which is what we're opening up now. All right, so we're going to continue on here.
So can I add one thing there too? I mean, it
Yes.
happens the reverse of the way that we think that it needs to happen too, because we wait to see things before we believe them. But with magic, you have to trust and believe first, and then they show up because you're calling them.
Huge. Okay, we want that in neon. You have to trust and believe first. This is the whole thing about the fairies, and that little code was retained through the Peter Pan story, telling the children, I believe, having them say, I believe, I believe. Somehow the fairies have told me for years now, we were able to get that mode and that little code in to children, telling them this is how fifth dimensional reality works. You have to believe first in order to see or know, not the other way around, okay? This is the paradox, as you're saying, Maura. Belief is key. If you believe in fairies, you will start working with them. If you don't, you're going to be an old stooped man who's getting constipated. Okay, those are your two choices. Which one would you pick? You know, you might want to start getting in with the fairies here. Okay? It is
It
going
also
to,
means be careful what you believe.
It does
Be
mean be
careful
careful
what you
because
believe.
we are creating all sorts of very interesting realities right now. And this I always talk about with my Oracle students, right? Um, Janie, my Puma is a black cat that is totally aware and tells me about the beautiful dragons around. Indeed. And Maura, you've had some experiences with your cats.
Yeah, actually, Zora's been asking about the story with my cat, how the cat woke me up. And so I'll just briefly say what happened was I was in a really difficult place in my life and feeling devastated. And I was really angry with the universe, actually, because I thought things were really totally unfair. And so I kind of broke down. And I think key to this experience was actually breaking down and weeping and letting go. There's importance in that process sometimes. And it was only after I'd been weeping when I went and I sat back out in the backyard with my cat and I looked over at him and oh my God, he was so present. And I could feel his presence in my own body. And I looked at him and I could see, the ears moving around. He was aware of every single little thing that was going on in that garden. And I asked myself the question, what if I lived my life like that? What would that be like? I mean, so it was really truly a gift to me. That's what he was showing me. I always say that my cat was my greatest teacher
Yeah.
because he's the one that started me truly in a big way down this path.
That's so
So
beautiful.
animals are sacred, yeah.
They are sacred. They are allies along with the fairies. Now, Herbert is saying, I see fairies just as I see you now. I'll have what he's having, all right? Okay, the first time this happened was in a toning circle. Okay, I'm an overtone singer. Ooh, that is so cool. So I'm getting a real hit on overtone singing. And this is what happened in gospel choir yesterday. Holy crap. There were hundreds of people in that room singing these harmonies. And it was like, whoo, woo, woo, woo. We were like really getting high. And he's saying, when I was at Toning Circle, I am an overtone singer. When you hear high-pitched sounds, it's often the spirit world. Yep. Unless you come from a loud concert. Yeah. Yay to healing from trauma, Mel. Okay. All right. Dorothy, about 7 years ago, the fairies were waking me up in the middle of the night singing. Wow, that's so beautiful. I heard it audibly. They also would play some tricks. Haha. And it was getting really annoying. It finally stopped, but I guess I've kept them at arm's length since the experience. Okay, well, that's all right. Dorothy, I know you're in the class, right? So we'll be looking at that, how to reconnect. We could have shut the door, but the door can always be opened again. And, you can say, wow, I didn't know how to deal with it then. And also, you can create rules with fairies is what I'm saying right now. They're like, you can tell us yes and no, what to do. Like, we'll play with you a little bit, but we will respect your boundaries and we'll work with you. That's what they're saying right now. The other thing that I wanted to say, and we're still taking comments and questions for a little while. Again, for those of you coming in live, we're talking about the fairies, how to connect with them in general and through trees. And there's going to be much more of this in a beautiful, beautiful gathering called Awakening to Our Fairy Kin, an online class starting this Thursday, March 8th, 10 to 11:30 a.m. Pacific online. You can come live or listen later. It's 4 Thursdays this month with an optional day-long in-person in Oakland, Richmond, East Bay area on April 29th. We've been talking about that, and I'm going to post the link after this call. There was something that came in. Oh, yes, tricks. All right. How many people have had the experience where, dag nabbit, I can't find that necklace or my keys or that thing, da-da-da. You're looking everywhere. You're tearing the house apart, da-da-da. What happens? You come back in. They're in the middle of your freshly made bed. Or at a place where you looked 10 times, if not more. That I always feel is for sure the spirit world and often the fairies. All right, what's the card?
So this is the feline. Often he's responsible for that. So he wants you not to ignore the fairies or him.
Yeah, so when that happens, instead of getting all mad and going, scratching your head, what the heck, that would be the time to say, hello, fairies. Okay, what are you trying to tell me? I know you're trying to get my attention. That was a little challenging, I will admit, but I'm open to you. I'm open to you. What do you want to tell me in my life? Okay, so these are the signs.
Yes, also, and I'll add to that because I'm getting a little wiggle here too. It's like, it's a wake-up call. Be more conscious, be more conscious, be more conscious. And that includes where are you in this moment? What are you doing? Where did you put your keys?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So Elaine is saying, years ago, I was studying holotropic breath work in St. Helena, and the nature outside became very sparkling. I was called to go out among the trees for 12 hours. I was high on nature. People said that I looked much, much younger. Yeah. Hello, what did we say? The fairies, they're telling you they have a special kind of moisturizer that takes away wrinkles. People should be lining up for this course, Awakening to Our Fairy Kin, you know? Okay. Yeah, people are saying I've seen them in front of me. Average age of fairy hybrid here, 50 or less. Well, I'm not sure if you mean in general or among Maura and I. We are, you know, edging
Not
up
50 and less.
Yeah, right. They're every age, you know, and more are coming in right now. Okay. Maxie, yes, trees introduce themselves as sacred guardians to me, pillars of protection, and we must protect them too. Absolutely. And here's another thing about trees, which we're going to be talking about in the Awakening to Our Fairy Kin class starting on Thursday. They are connectors. You know, Maura was talking a little bit more about them being portals, but Maura, would you like to say a little bit more about them connecting the worlds?
Yeah, actually, there was one day I have this magical story. I've written it. It's in my blog somewhere, but I was out. I spent about a half an hour sitting next to a tree, and then per usual, I was placing my hands mostly on oaks because that's the one that I resonate with the most. And I was seeing these threads of golden light coming through, you know, with my eyes closed and my inner vision, these threads of golden light. And I really try not to put my own meaning on things. I try to wait until it comes through. I got to the top of the hill, and all of a sudden I was struck with that claircognizant knowing that trees are cosmic connectors. They actually ground cosmic energy into the earth. And immediately after I had this thought, I became aware there was another being there. And just in that moment, a coyote came and stood 20 feet in front of me and just looked at me straight in the eye and then made his way down. So he paused for a moment, and then the second one came down as if to emphasize the point. So this is how when you connect in with nature and you're really listening and tapped in, these messages become very, very clear. So yes, and then I found out later, I love it when you get another confirmation as well. They did a study in England where they realized that the growth rings on the trees were more related to the cosmic energies than the sun, which I thought was fascinating confirmation.
Wow.
So one of the things that can come through, this kind of knowledge that can come through, and then, you know, you look for the synchronicities and the confirmation of that as well.
Absolutely. Synchronicities, huge fairy magic in that. Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. And that idea of the trees anchoring cosmic energy into the earth is another reason why the overlords have taken out so many trees. They want to remove those vibrations and those grids. So that's why planting those trees, those tree sisters, Wangari Maathai, bless her heart, I know she's crossed over to the other side. Maybe she's helping guide those women. And the fairies that are connected to these trees, they're just saying, yes, awaken, repopulate our earth with organic, DNA-based, carbon-based life. Connect with us, communicate with us. We have much to tell you, much to share with you. This is what we are going to be doing in the Awakening to Our Fairy Kin class through Seven Sisters Mystery School, starting live this Thursday, March 8th, 10 to 11:30 a.m. Pacific. You can do it live or listen later. 4 Thursdays this month. with the optional day long with Maura and April Aronoff on April 29th in person in the Bay Area. We are inviting everybody, if you are feeling called, if you are feeling inspired, this course is not very expensive at all. I'm going to post the link for direct registration under the video as soon as we get off. And I welcome everybody to come on that. We've got a Facebook page where people are already starting to communicate. It's a private page for the class. We welcome you. We want to just send you love. Maura and I and April and everybody in the class is so excited about this journey that we're going to be doing together, co-creating, co-conjuring, co-imagining, and really starting this enchantment back up in our lives and for ourselves so that we can take it out into the world. All right. Those are my closing thoughts. Any other closing thoughts, Maura?
I'm just super excited to be in community with women around this and sharing.
And men.
Yes, and men. And
all genders.
Sharing our knowledge around this, because I mean, there's been so many beautiful shares here as well. And I love to see the synergy that's being created by just sharing here on Facebook Live. Take that and extend that into a whole live class where we get to connect even deeper with the community. I'm just super excited about it, and I invite you to come in. I think it'll be totally magic.
Yeah, it's going to be magic. All right, everybody, we're going to say goodbye for now. Thank you for your comments. I know there were more. Sorry I couldn't get to them all, but you can also write to Maura and me personally. And we're just sending you many fairy blessings today. We are thanking the fairies for being with us, and we are going to go out. And which one is that?
This is the Oak Men. This is the Oak Men. They're just saying thank you.
Blessed be.
Actually, both ways. Yes.
Oh, let it be the land of oaks once more. All righty. Yes. Okay, everybody. Goodbye for now. Bye-bye. Bye, Maura. Bye.
Bye.